Your English is not weak. It is trapped. You understand the words, you understand the meaning, but when it is your turn to speak, your brain locks the door. This audiobook will show you how to open it, how to stop freezing, stop translating, and start replying with the English you already know. Stay until the end, because the skill you are missing may change the way you speak English forever. Chapter 1. English gets into your brain, but it can't get back out. You are listening to someone speak English. You understand the question. You know what the words mean. Nothing feels difficult. Then they stop talking. Now it is your turn, and suddenly your mind goes quiet. You know the answer, but the words do not come. You start searching. You translate. You check your grammar. You think, is this sentence correct? A simple reply that should take 2 seconds becomes 10 seconds of stress. This is one of the biggest hidden problems in English learning. Your English can enter your brain, but it has not yet learned how to come back out quickly. Understanding and speaking are not the same skill. When you listen, your brain only needs to recognize meaning, but when you speak, your brain must choose an idea, find the words, build the sentence, and move your mouth, all in a few seconds. That is why you can understand a movie, but still freeze when someone asks, "What did you do today?" The problem is not that your English is weak. The problem is that your output system is slow. Imagine a road going into a city. The road is wide, fast, and easy. That is your listening skill. But the road coming out is narrow and blocked. That is your speaking skill. You do not need to learn thousands of new words first. You need to train the road going out. Start with simple answers. Speak before your sentence feels perfect. Use the English you already know. Let your mouth practice releasing words without waiting for permission from your brain. Because fluency does not begin when you understand more. Fluency begins when the English already inside you learns how to come out. Chapter 2. Destroy the 3-second freeze. Someone asks you a simple question in English. What do you think? You know the answer. But instead of speaking, your brain does something dangerous. It waits. 1 second becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and inside those few seconds, everything starts going wrong. You begin translating. You search for the perfect word. You check your grammar. You change the sentence before you even say it. Then doubt enters. What if I make a mistake? What if they don't understand me? What if I sound stupid? And now the answer that was clear inside your mind has disappeared. This is the 3-second freeze. It is not caused by a lack of English. It is caused by giving your brain too much time to interfere. The longer you wait, the harder speaking becomes. That is why your first goal should not be to speak perfectly. Your first goal is to respond quickly. If someone asks, "Did you like the movie?" do not build a beautiful sentence. Start, "Yes, I did. Actually, not really. It was good, but..." Those first few words are powerful because they break the freeze. Once your mouth starts moving, your brain has something to follow. Think of speaking like jumping into water. Standing at the edge and thinking too much makes the jump harder. But once you move, the fear loses power. Train yourself to answer simple questions within 3 seconds. Not perfectly, just clearly. Use easy words. Use short sentences. Make mistakes if necessary. Every fast response teaches your brain one important lesson. English is something I use, not something I prepare forever. You do not defeat hesitation by thinking faster. You defeat it by speaking before hesitation grows. So when your moment comes, do not wait for confidence. Start with one word, then another, and destroy the freeze before it destroys your reply. Chapter 3. Break the think, translate, check loop. You hear a question in English. You understand it. But instead of answering directly, your brain takes the long road. First, you think of the answer in your own language. Then you translate it into English. Then you check the grammar. Then you change a word. Then you check again. And by the time you are ready, the natural moment to speak is already gone. This is the think, translate, check loop. And it is one of the biggest reasons speaking feels slow. The problem is not that you cannot speak English. The problem is that your brain is doing too many jobs before your mouth is allowed to open. Fluent speakers do not build every sentence like a school exercise. They react to meaning. Someone says, "Are you busy?" Their brain does not stop and translate every word. The answer comes directly. A little. Not really. Yeah, give me 5 minutes. That is the skill you need to build. Start connecting meaning directly to English. When you feel hungry, think, "I'm hungry." When you see rain, think, "It's raining." When someone asks your opinion, begin with, "I think." Keep it simple. Simple English spoken immediately is more useful than perfect English spoken too late. And stop checking every sentence before you say it. Conversation is not an exam. You are allowed to correct yourself after you start. You are allowed to use easier words. You are allowed to sound imperfect while your brain becomes faster. Every time you skip translation, you build a shorter path. Every time you speak without checking, that path becomes stronger. Soon, English stops passing through 3 different rooms before reaching your mouth. It begins moving directly from meaning to response. That is when speaking changes. You stop creating English slowly. You start releasing it naturally. Chapter 4. Build a first word reflex. Start speaking before doubt has time to stop you. Most English learners believe the hardest part of speaking is finishing the sentence. It is not. The hardest part is often much smaller. It is starting. Someone asks you a question. You already understand it. You may even know exactly what you want to say, but your mouth stays closed. Why? Because your brain is waiting for the whole sentence to become perfect before it allows the first word to come out. That waiting is dangerous. The longer you wait, the more your mind starts interfering. Is this the right tense? Should I use this word? What if my pronunciation is wrong? What if I make a mistake? And suddenly, a simple answer feels difficult. This is why you need a first word reflex. A first word reflex means training yourself to begin speaking before your brain has time to create fear. You do not need the whole answer. You only need the beginning. Someone asks, "Do you like living here?" Start with, "Yeah, actually, I think, to be honest." Once the first words leave your mouth, something important happens. The pressure drops. You are no longer trying to start. You are already speaking. And when speaking begins, the next words become easier to find. Think about a car. The hardest moment is often getting it moving from a complete stop. But once the car begins rolling, continuing forward becomes easier. Speaking works in a similar way. Your first words create movement. They give your brain time to find what comes next. This is why fluent speakers often use small opening phrases. "Well, let me think. I'd say, for me, that depends." These phrases may look simple, but they are powerful. They keep the conversation alive while your brain prepares the rest of the answer. Now start training this skill every day. Ask yourself simple questions. What did I eat today? What do I want to do tomorrow? Which movie do I like? Then give yourself only a few seconds to begin. Do not prepare the whole answer silently. Open your mouth and start. At the moment, "I really like." Tomorrow, "I'm going to." Your goal is not perfect grammar. Your goal is to make starting automatic. And when you make a mistake, keep going. Do not stop the whole sentence because one word was wrong. Correct it quickly if you can, or simply continue. Real conversation is not about creating perfect sentences. It is about keeping meaning moving. Every time you begin quickly, you weaken hesitation. Every time you speak before checking everything, you teach your brain that English does not need permission. After enough practice, something powerful begins to happen. Someone asks you a question, and instead of silence, a word appears. Then another. Then another. You are no longer standing outside the sentence trying to build it. You are already inside it. That is the real power of the first word reflex. You do not need to know everything you are going to say. You only need enough courage and speed to begin. Because once the first word comes out, the rest of your English finally has somewhere to go. Do not wait until the whole sentence is ready. Train the first word until starting becomes automatic. Chapter 5. Never build a reply from zero again. Create ready-to-fire response patterns for real conversations. Imagine this. Someone asks you, "What do you usually do on weekends?" You understand every word, but inside your head, you immediately start building. First word, second word, grammar, tense, vocabulary, sentence order. Then you stop. You erase the sentence in your mind and try again. This is exhausting, and this is exactly why many English learners feel slow even when they already know enough English. They are trying to build every reply from zero. Every question feels new. Every answer feels like a small test. Every conversation forces the brain to create something from nothing. But fluent speaking does not work like that. Strong speakers do not invent every sentence from the beginning. Their brains already have patterns ready. Think about how you speak in your first language. When someone asks, "How are you?" you probably do not carefully choose every word. The answer is already available. When someone asks your opinion, you already have natural ways to begin. When you disagree, explain, remember something, or tell a short story, your brain already knows the road. English needs the same thing. You need a collection of ready-to-fire response patterns. These are not sentences you memorize like a robot. They are flexible beginnings that give your brain somewhere to go. For example, imagine someone asks for your opinion. Instead of creating everything from nothing, you can begin with, "I think, for me, I'd say, the way I see it, honestly, I feel." Now your brain is no longer facing an empty page. The conversation has already started. You only need to complete the idea. Someone asks, "What do you think about working from home?" Instead of freezing, you begin, "I think it can be really useful because..." Now you are moving. The hardest part is gone. Or maybe someone asks you about a past experience. You can have patterns like, "The last time I remember when, a few years ago, one thing that happened was..." The pattern gives your brain a doorway. You walk through it and continue. This is powerful because your problem is often not a lack of ideas. Your problem is finding the entrance to the answer. Ready-made patterns give you that entrance. Think about driving on a road you already know. You do not need to stop at every corner and ask yourself where to go. You recognize the route. Your brain can move faster because the path already exists. Conversation patterns work the same way. The more often you use them, the less energy your brain needs. And that extra mental space can be used for the real message you want to communicate. Start by building patterns for the situations you use every day. If someone asks you to explain something, the main reason is, "What I mean is..." Basically, the simple way to explain it is, "If you are not sure, I'm not completely sure, but I think it might be, maybe, as far as I know, if you agree." Exactly, that's true. I completely agree. I was thinking the same thing. If you disagree, I see what you mean, but I'm not sure I agree. I think it depends. That's one way to see it, but if you need more time, let me think for a second. That's a good question. I've never really thought about that. I'm not sure, but I'd say... Notice something important. These phrases do not give you the entire conversation. They simply keep you moving, and movement is what you need. Silence gives overthinking more power. A simple opening gives your brain time. Now imagine someone asks, "Why are you learning English?" Without a pattern, you may start searching for the perfect answer. But if your brain already knows, one of the main reasons is, you can begin immediately. One of the main reasons is that I want to communicate with more people. Then you can add. And another reason is, now one pattern has turned into a complete answer. This is how fluent conversation grows, not from one perfect sentence, but from small familiar pieces connected together. You can also prepare patterns for common conversation jobs. Starting an answer. adding another idea, giving an example, changing your opinion, correcting yourself, buying time, ending your answer, for adding an idea. Also, another thing is, on top of that, there's one more reason for examples. For example, like, a good example is, let me give you an example for correcting yourself. Actually, let me say that differently. What I mean is, sorry, I meant, let me correct that. These little phrases are powerful because they stop one mistake from killing the entire conversation. If you say something incorrectly, you do not need to panic. You already have a pattern for repairing it. This creates confidence, not fake confidence, practical confidence. You know that even if the conversation changes, you have tools ready. This is similar to having a small toolbox. You do not carry one tool for every possible problem. You carry a few useful tools that can solve many different problems. English response patterns are those tools. A phrase like I think can work in hundreds of conversations. I'm not sure, but can save you when you do not know the exact answer. The main reason is can help you explain almost anything. That reminds me of can help you continue a conversation naturally. You do not need hundreds at first. Start with 10. Use them again and again. Make them so familiar that your mouth can say them without asking your brain for permission. Then add more. Here is another important rule. Do not only read these patterns, use them aloud. Reading creates recognition. Speaking creates access. If you only look at I'd say on a page, you may understand it perfectly. But when a real person asks you a question, your brain may still fail to retrieve it. So practice differently. Take one pattern, I'd say, then create 5 quick answers. I'd say this is the best option. I'd say Monday is better. I'd say the movie was good. I'd say we need more time. I'd say speaking is harder than listening. Do not stop to make each answer beautiful. You are training speed. You are teaching your brain. When I need an opinion, this pattern is ready. Now take, the main reason is, use it 5 times. Then another pattern. This kind of practice changes English from knowledge into a response system. And here is where it becomes even more powerful. After enough repetition, you stop remembering the pattern consciously. It simply appears. Someone asks your opinion. I think. Someone asks why. The main reason is, someone asks for an example. For example, someone challenges your idea. I see what you mean, but... Now the conversation no longer feels like walking into a dark room. There are lights already turned on. Your brain knows where to step. This is the difference between knowing English and having English ready. A word can exist in your memory but still be too slow to reach. A phrase can be grammatically familiar but still disappear under pressure. Fluency requires more than knowing. It requires fast access, so stop asking yourself, how many English words do I know? Start asking, how much English can I use immediately? That question changes everything. You may know 10,000 words and still freeze. Another person may know fewer words but speak smoothly because the words they know are organized into useful patterns. That person does not have more English, they have faster English, and that is what you are building. From this point forward, whenever you hear a useful sentence, do not only ask, what does this mean? Ask, where could I use this? How could I change it? What type of question could this answer? Turn one sentence into 5. Turn one phrase into 10 situations. Make English reusable. Because fluent speakers do not carry millions of separate sentences inside their heads. They carry flexible structures that can be changed in seconds. That is your goal. Not memorizing a script for every conversation. Not predicting every possible question. Not becoming perfect. Your goal is to build enough strong patterns that your brain is never forced to begin from emptiness. When someone asks a question, give yourself a doorway. When you need time, use a bridge. When you want to explain, use a structure. When you make a mistake, use a repair phrase. When you want to continue, use an extension. Then keep moving. The more you do this, the more your speaking changes. You stop hunting for individual words. You stop assembling every sentence piece by piece. You stop feeling that every reply is a new problem. Instead, familiar pieces begin appearing automatically. One pattern starts the answer, another keeps it going, another adds detail, another helps you finish, and suddenly conversation feels lighter, faster, more natural. This is how you escape the empty mind problem. Not by forcing your brain to become faster at building everything from zero, but by giving it something ready to fire. So remember this: never enter a conversation with an empty toolbox. Build your patterns, repeat them, change them, use them until they become automatic. Because when your brain already knows how to begin, speaking stops feeling like creation. It starts feeling like connection, and that is the moment English becomes much easier to release. Chapter 6. Stop listening like a student. Turn everything you hear into immediate speaking practice. Most English learners spend a huge amount of time listening. They watch videos. They listen to podcasts. They follow interviews. They watch movies. They hear English every single day, and something strange happens. Their understanding becomes better. They know more words. They can follow faster speech. They can understand jokes, stories, and explanations. But when someone suddenly asks them a simple question, they still freeze. Why? Because they have trained themselves to be good listeners, but not good responders. This is a very important difference. Listening is not the same as speaking. Understanding a sentence does not automatically teach your brain how to answer it. You can understand thousands of hours of English and still struggle in a real conversation if your brain has spent all that time doing only one job: receiving. Real conversation requires two jobs: receive, then respond; listen, then answer; understand, then produce. If you only train the first half, your English becomes one-sided. You become excellent at letting English enter your brain, but weak at sending English back out. That is why from now on, you must stop listening like a student. Start listening like a speaker. A student listens and asks, "What did they say?" A speaker listens and asks, "What would I say back?" That one question can completely change the way you practice English. Imagine you are watching an interview. The interviewer asks, "What was the biggest challenge you faced?" Normally, you wait for the person in the video to answer. Not anymore. Pause. Answer the question yourself. Even if your answer is simple. The biggest challenge for me was. I think my biggest problem was. For me, it was difficult because. Now you are no longer watching English. You are using English. That small change turns passive listening into active speaking practice. And this is where real progress begins. Every question you hear can become your question. Every statement can become something you react to. Every story can become something you continue. Every opinion can become something you agree or disagree with. English is everywhere, but most learners only collect it. You need to start responding to it. Suppose someone in a podcast says, "I think working from home is better." Do not just understand the sentence. React. I agree because. I don't think so. It depends on the person. For me, working at home is better because. That is real speaking practice. Nobody needs to be sitting in front of you. Your brain only needs to believe that a response is required. This is how you train the missing skill. And here is something important. Do not wait until you feel ready. Do not wait until your vocabulary is perfect. Do not say, "I will practice speaking after I understand more English." That can keep you stuck for years. You already understand enough to begin responding. Your answers can be simple. In fact, simple answers are better at the beginning. Someone says, "I love waking up early." You can respond, "Me too." "I don't." "Really? I hate mornings." "I wish I could wake up early." That is enough. Fluency grows from fast, simple responses before it grows into long, beautiful answers. Your brain needs repetition more than complexity. Think about a tennis player. The player does not become fast by reading about tennis. They become fast because the ball comes toward them again and again, and every time it comes, they respond. English conversation works in the same way. A sentence comes toward you, a question comes toward you, an opinion comes toward you. Your brain must learn. Something came in. Something must go back out. That is the reflex you are building. So here is your first new listening rule. Never let every sentence pass through your mind without reaction. You do not need to respond to every single sentence in a 20-minute video, but you should respond often. If someone asks a question, answer it. If someone gives an opinion, react. If someone tells a story, imagine what you would say next. If someone says something surprising, respond naturally. Really? That's interesting. I didn't know that. That happened to me too. I see what you mean. These small responses matter. They teach your mouth to join the conversation. Now let us go deeper. There are 4 powerful ways to turn listening into speaking. The first is prediction. Before the speaker finishes, try to guess what might come next. For example, I started learning English because... Pause. What could come next? I wanted a better job. I wanted to travel. I wanted to speak with more people. Prediction makes your brain active. You are no longer waiting for English. You are producing possible English before you hear the real answer. That is powerful because speaking requires the same skill. In conversation, your brain must create language quickly before it knows exactly what will happen next. Prediction trains that speed. The second method is instant answering. Every time you hear a question, answer before the speaker does. If a video asks, "What do you usually do in the morning?" Pause. Answer. I wake up around 7. I usually check my phone first. I make tea and start working. Do not copy the speaker's answer. Give your answer. You are training your own English. The third method is reaction training. This is one of the most natural speaking skills, but many learners ignore it. Real conversation is full of small reactions. Someone says, "I lost my phone yesterday." You say, "Oh no. Seriously? That's terrible. What happened?" Someone says, "I got a new job." You respond, "That's great. Congratulations." Really? What kind of job? These short reactions may look unimportant. They are not. They keep conversations alive. They also give your brain time to prepare the next longer sentence. A good speaker does not only give answers, a good speaker reacts. So train reactions every day. When watching something, do not sit silently. Respond, smile, disagree, ask a question, say something back, make your listening active. The fourth method is continuation. After someone says something, add one more thought. For example, "I started exercising last month." You can say, "That's good. I've been trying to exercise more too." Or, "Really? What kind of exercise do you do?" Or, "I should start doing that." You are teaching your brain to extend conversations. This is important because many learners can answer one question but cannot keep talking. They say, "Yes, no, maybe, I like it." Then the conversation dies. Fluency is not just answering, it is learning how to send the conversation forward. So every time you hear a sentence, ask yourself, "What could I say next?" That question changes everything. You can use it with movies, with podcasts, with YouTube videos, with short clips, with news, with interviews, with audiobooks, even with songs, if there is clear spoken meaning around them. But there is one warning. Do not turn this into another school exercise. Do not stop every 5 seconds to write grammar notes. Do not study every unknown word. Do not make your practice so slow that it stops feeling like conversation. Your goal is speed. Your goal is response. Your goal is to train the bridge between hearing and speaking. If you do not know one word, use another word. If your sentence is not perfect, keep going. If you make a mistake, continue. This is practice, not a test. Now imagine you watch 10 minutes of English every day. Normally, you might understand most of it and feel good. But what if during those 10 minutes, you also answer 10 questions? Give 5 reactions. Make 3 predictions. Ask 3 follow-up questions. Repeat 3 useful phrases aloud. Now those 10 minutes are no longer only listening practice. They become a full speaking workout. This is how you get more value from the English you already consume. You do not always need more content. Sometimes you need to use the content differently. This is a powerful lesson. Many learners believe progress comes from watching more videos, more lessons, more podcasts, more vocabulary. But sometimes the answer is not more input. The answer is better use of input. One 5-minute video can teach you more speaking skill than an hour of passive listening if you actively respond. Why? Because your brain remembers what it does, not only what it sees. If you hear a phrase once, you may understand it. If you say it 5 times in different ways, your brain begins to own it. That is the difference. For example, you hear, "That depends on the situation." Do not just think, "Yes, I understand." Use it. Do you like working alone? That depends on the situation. Is traveling expensive? That depends on the situation. Should people study at night? That depends on the situation. Now the phrase is becoming yours. You are moving it from listening memory into speaking memory. This is exactly what you need. And there is another powerful habit. Steal useful speaking patterns. Not full speeches, not long sentences, just small, natural pieces. You hear, "To be honest, take it." You hear, "The main thing is, take it." You hear, "I'm not really sure, but take it." You hear, "That reminds me of," take it. Then use each pattern with your own ideas. This is how natural English is built. Not by memorizing a giant dictionary, but by collecting small pieces that your mouth can use quickly. You are building a speaking system. And the best systems are made from simple parts. Now let us talk about shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a short sentence and speaking with or just after the speaker. This can help your rhythm, your pronunciation, your speed, your mouth movement. But do not only copy sounds. After you copy the sentence, change it. If the speaker says, "I usually go for a walk after dinner," repeat it. Then make your own version. "I usually watch videos after dinner." "I usually call my friend after dinner." "I usually work after dinner." Now you are not only copying, you are creating. This is much more powerful. Copy first, change second, use third. That 3-step process turns listening into active speaking. You can do the same with questions. You hear, "What do you usually do on weekends?" Repeat the question, then answer it, then change it. "What do you usually do after work?" "What do you usually eat for breakfast?" "What do you usually do when you are tired?" Now one sentence has created many speaking opportunities. This is how strong learners practice. They do not only consume language, they multiply it. One sentence becomes 5. One question becomes 10. One phrase becomes many conversations. That is how you build speed without needing thousands of new lessons. Now think about your normal day. Maybe you already watch English for 30 minutes. You do not need another 30 minutes. Use the same 30 minutes differently. During the first 10 minutes, listen normally. During the next 10 minutes, pause and respond. During the final 10 minutes, repeat useful phrases and create your own examples. That is enough. The point is not to create a perfect routine. The point is to stop being silent while English is happening around you. Silence trains understanding. Response trains speaking. You need both. Now here is another powerful technique. Answer before the answer. When watching an interview, pause after the question. Give your own answer first. Then listen to the speaker. After that, compare, not to judge yourself, but to learn. Maybe the speaker used a phrase you like. Take it. Maybe they gave a longer answer. Notice how they started. Maybe they used, "Well, I think," the biggest reason is. For me personally, add it to your response bank. Now you are learning from real English while also training your own output. This is much stronger than simply hearing the answer and moving on. There is also a hidden benefit. When you practice this way, You stop being afraid of surprise questions. Why? Because your brain becomes used to being asked things. It becomes used to producing answers quickly. You build mental flexibility. If the question changes, you do not panic. Your brain has practiced reacting again and again. This is what real conversation demands. You cannot know every question before someone asks it. You cannot prepare every sentence. You need a brain that can move. That is why response training matters so much. It teaches your English to become flexible. Now let us make one thing very clear. You do not need to speak for 5 minutes every time. A 10-second answer is useful. A 5-second reaction is useful. One follow-up question is useful. One quick opinion is useful. Small repetitions build fast habits. Do not wait for a perfect 1-hour speaking session. Use the moments you already have. Watching a video? Respond. Listening to a podcast? Predict. Watching a movie? React. Hearing a question? Answer. Hearing a useful phrase? Repeat and change it. You are surrounded by speaking practice. You just need to stop treating it as listening only. And when you do this consistently, something begins to change. At first, your responses feel slow. You pause. You search. You struggle. That is normal. Then certain phrases become easier. Your reactions become faster. Questions stop surprising you as much. Your mouth begins moving sooner. You stop needing to translate every idea. The gap gets smaller. And one day, someone asks you something in English, and before you can think about grammar, you answer. That moment is important. Because it means your English is becoming active. It is no longer sitting inside your mind like information. It is becoming a response. That is the goal. You do not want English only in your ears. You want it in your mouth. You do not want English only as knowledge. You want it as movement. You do not want to understand a conversation from the outside. You want to enter it. So from today, when you listen to English, do not ask only, "Did I understand this?" Ask, "What would I say? What would I ask? Do I agree? How would I answer? What could I add?" Then speak out loud. Even if nobody is there, even if the answer is short, even if it is not perfect. Because every response strengthens the missing bridge. Every reaction makes your English faster. Every question you answer teaches your brain to produce. Every sentence you change becomes easier to use later. And every time you refuse to stay silent, you are training for the moment when a real person is waiting for your reply. That is when all this practice becomes real. So stop listening like someone preparing for an exam. Stop listening only to collect words. Stop listening only to understand. Listen like someone who expects to speak next. Because real fluency begins when your brain stops asking, "What did they say?" and starts asking, "What am I going to say back?" That is the shift. That is the missing training. And that is how listening finally becomes speaking. Chapter 7. Make your mouth answer before your mind translates. Close the final gap until English becomes automatic. There is one moment every English learner wants. Someone speaks to you in English. You understand them. And before fear, translation, grammar, or doubt enters your mind, you answer. No long pause. No silent sentence building. No searching through your memory. No asking yourself, "How do I say this?" The English simply comes out. That is the moment when English begins to feel different. It stops feeling like a subject you studied. It starts feeling like something your brain can use automatically. And this is the final gap you must close. You already know what happens when that gap is too wide. Someone asks, "What did you do yesterday?" You understand the question immediately, but then your brain takes control. First you think about the answer in your own language. Then you search for English words. Then you try to put those words in the correct order. Then you check the tense. Then you worry about pronunciation. Then you change the sentence. And while all of this is happening, the other person is waiting. That is not a vocabulary problem. That is not always a grammar problem. It is a speed problem between meaning and response. Your understanding is fast. Your speaking process is slow. And fluency begins when you shorten that distance. The goal is not to remove thinking completely. The goal is to stop doing unnecessary thinking before every simple reply. Think about your first language. If someone asks, "Are you hungry?" you do not normally stop and build the answer word by word. You react, "Yes, a little, not really, I already ate." The meaning enters, the response leaves. That is the system you want to build in English, meaning in, English out, without forcing every idea through translation first. This is why the final stage of your training is not about learning more English. It is about making the English you already know faster to reach. You may already know, "I don't know. I think so. Maybe later. I'm not sure. That sounds good. I agree. I don't think so." But knowing these phrases is not enough. They must become available at the exact second you need them. That is what automatic English means. Not knowing every word, not speaking without mistakes, not sounding perfect. Automatic English means that simple ideas can come out without a long mental fight, and you build that through repetition. But not slow repetition, fast repetition. Imagine someone asks, "Do you like coffee?" Your goal is not to create the best possible answer. Your goal is to react. "Yes, I do." "Not really." "Sometimes." "I prefer tea." "Good. Now another question. Are you busy today?" "A little." "Yeah, pretty busy." "Not really. I have some free time." Again, no long planning, just response. This kind of practice may look too simple, but simple practice builds powerful speed. Why? Because your brain learns through patterns. When the same type of situation happens again and again, your brain begins to prepare the response automatically. That is why you should practice common situations until they become easy. Greetings, opinions, likes and dislikes, daily routines, plans, past experiences, simple explanations, agreement, disagreement, questions, clarification, reactions. These are the building blocks of real conversation. You do not need to practice every possible sentence. You need to practice the types of responses you use most often. For example, train quick opinion answers. Someone asks, "Is learning English difficult?" Start immediately. "I think. For me, I'd say." Then continue. Train quick past answers. "What did you do yesterday?" "I went. I stayed. I spent." Train quick future answers. "What are you doing tomorrow?" "I'm going to." "I'm planning to." "I might." Now your brain begins connecting certain meanings with certain starting points. That connection is important, because hesitation often happens when your brain does not know where to begin. Once the beginning becomes automatic, the rest becomes easier. But there is another problem you must remove. You need to stop treating translation like your enemy, while secretly using it for every sentence. Many learners say, "I want to think in English," but when they speak, they still do this. Idea in first language. Translate. Check. Speak. Then they wonder why English feels slow. You cannot build a fast road while continuing to use the old road every time, so start with small direct thoughts. Do not begin with difficult ideas. Look around you. Think, "The door is open. My phone is on the table. I'm tired. I need water. It's hot today. I should finish this." These thoughts are simple. That is exactly why they are useful. You are teaching your brain that not every thought needs translation. The idea can appear directly in English. Then move to reactions. You see something surprising. That's strange. You make a mistake. That was stupid. You remember something. Oh, I forgot. You become tired. I need a break. You like something. That looks good. Now English is no longer something you only use during a lesson. It becomes part of your normal mental life. This matters because speaking speed is built before the conversation begins. If English only appears in your mind when another person talks to you, your brain has to suddenly switch systems. But if you use small English thoughts throughout the day, English stays warm, ready, available. Think of it like starting a car on a cold morning. If the engine has been sitting for a long time, it may take time to get moving. But if it is already running, movement is easier. Your English works in a similar way. Keep it active. Use it before you need it. Talk to yourself. Describe what you are doing. React to things. Ask yourself questions. Answer them. Not for hours. Even 5 minutes can help. For example, while making tea, I need a cup. Where is the sugar? I think there's enough water. I'll sit down after this. This is not childish practice. This is direct language training. You are reducing the need for translation, and that is exactly what you need. Now let us talk about something very important: speed before complexity. Many learners make speaking harder than necessary because they try to sound advanced. Someone asks, "Why do you like this city?" The learner wants to produce a long, beautiful answer. They search for advanced words. They try to sound intelligent. Then they freeze. But a fluent response could be, "I like it because it's peaceful." That is enough. Then add, "And the people are friendly." Then, "There are also many places to visit." Simple sentence. Another simple sentence. Another simple sentence. That is how fluent speaking often works. You do not need one perfect sentence. You need a chain of clear ones. Speed comes when you stop trying to impress yourself. Use the words you can reach quickly, because the fastest word you can use is more valuable in conversation than the perfect word you cannot find. If you forget exhausted, say very tired. If you forget purchase, say buy. If you forget recommend, say it is good. Keep moving. The purpose of conversation is not to prove how many words you know. It is to make meaning travel from your mind to another person. That is all. Now here is one of the most powerful habits you can build. Answer first. Improve later. When someone asks a question, give a simple answer immediately. Then make it better. For example, what do you think about online learning? First, I think it's useful. Then improve. Especially for people who don't have much time. Then add, but sometimes it can feel lonely. Notice what happened. You did not wait for the complete answer. You built it while speaking. This is a major skill. Fluent speakers often discover what they want to say while they are saying it. They do not always prepare everything first. They begin. Then they shape the idea. You can do the same. This removes enormous pressure. You no longer need to know the ending before saying the beginning. You only need enough English for the next small piece. That is how you make your mouth faster than your fear. Now imagine someone asks, "What kind of books do you like?" Instead of planning a complete answer, start. "I like." Pause naturally. "Books about psychology." Then continue. "I like learning how people think." Then, "And sometimes I read business books too." You built the answer one piece at a time. That is real speaking. Your brain does not need to prepare the entire road. It only needs to see the next step. This is why you should stop asking, "Can I say this perfectly?" Ask, "Can I say the first part now?" That question creates movement, and movement destroys hesitation. Now let us make this practical. There are 5 levels you can train. The first level is instant reactions. These should become almost automatic. Really? Exactly. Maybe. I agree. I don't know. That's true. That's interesting. Of course. Not really. Why? These tiny responses are powerful because they teach your mouth to respond immediately. The second level is instant starts. I think, for me, I'd say, honestly, the main reason is, maybe because, I'm not sure, but these help you begin longer answers. The third level is instant extensions. And also, another thing is, for example, that's why, but at the same time, these help you continue. The fourth level is instant repair. Let me say that again. What I mean is, actually, I used the wrong word. These help you survive mistakes. The fifth level is instant continuation. What about you? Why do you think that? What happened next? How about your experience? These keep the conversation alive. When these 5 levels become familiar, speaking changes completely. You stop feeling that every conversation is unpredictable. You have tools, you have openings, you have bridges, you have repair phrases, you have ways to continue, and that creates calm. Because fear becomes smaller when your brain knows it has options. Now here is something else you need to understand. Automatic speaking is not built by one perfect practice session. It is built by hundreds of small correct repetitions. 1 fast answer today, 10 tomorrow, 20 next week. Small conversations with yourself, short responses to videos, quick questions, simple opinions, repeated patterns. That is how the system changes. You are teaching your brain one message. When English comes in, English goes out. Again, 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 until the response becomes faster. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Speaking for 3 hours once a month will not help as much as speaking for 15 minutes every day. Your brain needs frequent contact, frequent use, frequent retrieval. You want English to feel normal, and normal comes from repetition. Now let us talk about retrieval. You may know a word very well when you see it, but speaking requires something different. You must pull that word out of memory without seeing it. That is harder. This is why some learners can read advanced English but cannot speak simple English quickly. Their recognition is strong, their retrieval is weak. So train retrieval. Ask yourself, what are 5 words connected to travel? Do not look at notes, say them. Airport, ticket, hotel, passport, flight. Now make sentences. I need to buy a ticket. My flight is tomorrow. I forgot my passport. Now the words are moving from passive memory into active memory. Do the same with topics you actually talk about. Work, family, food, money, learning, travel, health, daily routine, movies, technology, goals. Build quick access. Because the faster you can retrieve common words, the less your brain will depend on translation. And here is another important technique. Speak around missing words. You will never know every word. Even native speakers forget words. The difference is that fluent speakers do not allow one missing word to stop the whole conversation. Imagine you forget the word umbrella. Do not freeze. Say, the thing you use when it rains. Maybe the other person gives you the word. Great. Conversation continues. You forget charger. Say, the thing I use to give power to my phone. You forget receipt. Say, the paper they give you after you buy something. This skill is incredibly powerful, because the fear of missing vocabulary disappears when you know you can explain around the problem. Your brain learns. I do not need the perfect word to continue. That creates freedom, and freedom creates speed. Now let us talk about mistakes. If you want English to become automatic, you must allow imperfect English to come out. This does not mean grammar is useless. It means grammar should help communication, not stop it. Imagine you want to say, I went there yesterday, but you accidentally say, I go there yesterday. Did the conversation end? No. Did the other person probably understand you? Yes. Can you correct it? Of course. I mean, I went there yesterday. Done. Keep going. One small mistake does not deserve 10 seconds of panic. Your goal is not to protect yourself from every mistake. Your goal is to become good at recovering quickly. That is a stronger skill, because if you can recover, mistakes lose their power over you. And when mistakes stop frightening you, your mouth becomes faster. You no longer wait for perfect certainty. You speak. Now think about children learning their first language. They do not wait until their grammar is perfect. They speak with the language they have. They make mistakes, they repeat, they listen, they try again. Over time, the system becomes stronger. Adults often make the process harder because they want to be correct before they are comfortable. But comfort comes from use. You cannot think your way into automatic speaking. You must speak your way into it. That is the truth. Now here is a powerful daily exercise. Call it the 5-second response drill. Ask yourself 20 simple questions. What did you eat today? What time did you wake up? What do you want to do tomorrow? What is your favorite place? Do you like rainy weather? What makes you tired? What are you learning now? Give yourself no more than 5 seconds to start each answer, not 5 seconds to finish, 5 seconds to begin. If you do not know what to say, begin with, I'm not sure but, I think, maybe, for me. Your brain must learn that silence is not the default answer, is. Then use the one more sentence rule. After every answer, add one more sentence. I like rainy weather. One more. It makes everything feel calm. Another question. I usually wake up at 7. One more. But on weekends I sleep longer. This simple rule trains extension. Soon you will stop giving tiny answers. Your brain will automatically look for the next idea. Now add the follow-up rule. After answering, ask something back. I like rainy weather. What about you? I started learning English 2 years ago. How long have you been learning? Now you are training conversation, not only answers. This is important because speaking is not a speech. It is movement between people. You respond, they respond, you continue. That is why fluency is not only about making sentences, it is about keeping the exchange alive. Now here is another advanced but simple technique. Practice same meaning 3 ways. Take one idea. I'm tired. Say it 3 ways. I'm tired. I'm really tired today. I need some rest. Another idea. I disagree. I don't agree. I see it differently. Another. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have no idea. Why is this useful? Because real conversation becomes easier when your brain has options. If one phrase does not appear, another can. You are building flexibility. And flexible English is fast English. Now practice fast choices. Ask, coffee or tea? Answer immediately, tea. Then explain, because I drink it every morning. City or countryside? Countryside, because it's quieter. Morning or night? Night, because I can focus better. These simple choices train opinion speed. Then make the questions harder. Would you rather work from home or in an office? Would you rather travel alone or with friends? Is money more important than free time? Now you are training your brain to form ideas under pressure. Again, not perfect ideas. Fast ideas. This is exactly what conversation requires. Now let us return to translation. Translation may still appear sometimes. That is normal. Do not panic when it happens. The goal is not to force your first language out of your brain. The goal is to make English strong enough that translation becomes unnecessary for common ideas. Start with easy areas, daily routine, feelings, simple opinions, common questions. These should become direct first, then slowly move to harder topics. Do not try to think about philosophy in English on day 1. Build the bridge with simple traffic first, then send bigger ideas across. That is how the system becomes stable. And remember this, automatic English does not mean fast English all the time. You can speak slowly and still be fluent. The important thing is that your mind is not fighting every sentence. A fluent person may pause to think about the idea. That is different from pausing because they are translating every word. You want idea pauses, not language panic. There is a big difference. If someone asks, "What is the biggest lesson you learned this year?" you may pause because the question is deep. That is normal. But once you know the idea, you should be able to start expressing it without rebuilding the entire language system. That is what you are training. Now think about everything you learned in the earlier chapters. First, you discovered that English enters your brain but does not always come back out. Then you attacked the 3-second freeze. Then you broke the think, translate, check loop. Then you built a first word reflex. Then you created ready-to-fire response patterns. Then you stopped listening like a student and started listening like a speaker. All of those skills lead here. This chapter is where everything connects. You hear English, you understand the meaning. Your brain chooses a response. A familiar starting pattern appears. Your mouth begins. You add the next idea. You continue. You correct if necessary. you ask something back, and the conversation moves. That is the complete loop. Not perfect, not magical, just trained. And because it is trained, it becomes faster. Now here is the most important thing you can do. Stop waiting for real conversations to practice real conversation skills. You can train them alone. Ask yourself questions, respond to videos, talk about your day, react to what you see, explain something out loud, describe a problem, tell a short story, give your opinion, disagree with a speaker, predict what someone will say, ask imaginary follow-up questions. All of this prepares your brain for real interaction. Then when the real conversation arrives, it does not feel completely new. Your brain has already been there many times. It knows the pattern. Someone asks a question, you answer. Someone disagrees, you respond. Someone tells a story, you react. Someone asks for details, you explain. This is how practice becomes confidence. And confidence here does not mean feeling fearless. It means trusting that even if you do not know exactly what to say, you can begin. That is enough. You do not need the full answer. You need the next sentence, sometimes only the next word. Now imagine yourself a few months from now. Someone asks, "What have you been working on lately?" Old you might freeze. Translate, search, check, wait. But trained you begins. Recently, I've been working on, the sentence is already moving. Then, improving my English speaking. Then, I understand a lot, but I'm trying to answer faster. So I practice every day. Simple, clear, natural. You did not need advanced vocabulary. You needed access. That is the difference. Now another person asks, "Why is speaking difficult for you?" You respond, "I think the biggest problem is overthinking." Then, "I usually know what I want to say, but I wait too long." Then, "So now I'm practicing faster responses." Again, meaning in, English out. This is what success looks like. Not sounding like someone else. Not having an accent-free voice. Not knowing every grammar rule. It is being able to participate, to answer, to react, to continue, to express yourself, to stay in the conversation. That is fluency in real life. And there is something beautiful about reaching this point. You begin to realize that a huge amount of English was already inside you. It was not missing. It was simply slow, locked behind hesitation, hidden behind translation, blocked by perfectionism, waiting behind fear. Your job was not only to add more English. Your job was to unlock the English you already had. And once that starts happening, your entire relationship with the language changes. You stop saying, "I can understand, but I can't speak." Instead, you start noticing, "I answered without translating. I spoke before I could overthink. I forgot a word and still continued. I made a mistake and did not stop. I asked a follow-up question. I had a real conversation." These small moments are huge. They are evidence that your brain is changing, and you should pay attention to them. Do not only measure your progress by grammar tests. Measure it by speed. How quickly can you begin? How long can you keep going? How often can you explain around a missing word? How naturally can you react? How often can you answer without translating? Those are powerful signs of real speaking growth. Now create one final rule for yourself. When English comes toward you, do not automatically become silent. Give something back, a word, a reaction, a question, an opinion, a sentence, anything. Train the loop, because every time you respond, the road becomes stronger. Every time you translate less, the road becomes shorter. Every time you speak before checking everything, the road becomes faster. And every time you survive a mistake, fear becomes weaker. This is not about becoming perfect in one day. It is about becoming less dependent on the slow process that has been controlling your speaking. Think less about building. Think more about releasing. Less about correctness before speaking. More about communication while speaking. Less about perfect words. More about available words. Less about waiting. More about beginning. That is the shift. And once you understand it, your practice becomes much clearer. You do not need another 1,000 hours of silent study before opening your mouth. You need to use what you already know, quickly, repeatedly, imperfectly, out loud, until simple English becomes automatic, then medium English becomes automatic, then longer answers become easier, then conversations begin to feel lighter. It happens step by step, one response at a time. So tomorrow, do not only study English, respond in English. When you wake up, ask yourself, how do I feel? Answer, what do I need to do today? Answer, what am I worried about? Answer, what am I looking forward to? Answer, while watching a video, what would I say here? Answer, when someone gives an opinion, do I agree? Answer, when you hear a question, how would I respond? Answer, keep teaching your brain that English is not something that ends at understanding. Understanding is only the beginning. The language must come back out. And eventually, something powerful happens. You stop noticing the process. A person speaks, you understand, you reply. Only later do you realize, I didn't translate that. That moment is one of the clearest signs that your English is becoming yours. You are no longer carrying the language like a collection of rules. You are using it like a tool, and once English becomes a tool, you stop asking whether every sentence is perfect. You start asking whether the message reached the other person. That is freedom, because conversation becomes less about proving yourself and more about connecting. And that is where your real voice begins to appear, not the voice you prepared, not the voice you translated, not the voice you checked 10 times, your actual voice, your thoughts, your reactions, your personality. In English, that is what all of this training is for. So remember the final lesson. You do not become fluent only by putting more English into your brain. You become fluent by training your brain to release English before fear can block it. Hear, understand, respond, do it again, then again, and again, until the gap becomes smaller, until translation arrives too late to interfere, until your first word appears without a fight, until mistakes stop controlling you, until conversations stop feeling like exams, until English stops waiting inside your head and starts moving through you. Because the final goal is not to think, what should I say in English? The final goal is to hear something, feel the meaning, and answer naturally, simply, immediately. When your mouth learns to answer before your mind begins translating, English is no longer only something you understand. It becomes something you can finally live in. Chapter 8. Stop practicing English. Start living in it. Turn English from something you study into something your brain uses every day. There comes a point in learning English when more study is not the real answer. You already know many words. You already understand basic grammar. You can follow videos. You can understand conversations. You can read. You can listen. And after the previous chapters, you are beginning to respond faster too. But there is still one final change that can take your speaking to another level. You must stop treating English like something that only exists during practice time. Because if English enters your life for 30 minutes and disappears for the other 23 hours, your brain will always treat it like a special activity, something you switch on, something you prepare for, something that requires effort. But your first language does not feel like that. You do not schedule a special time to think in it. You do not prepare before using it. You simply live. You think. You react. You decide. You remember. You complain. You plan. You laugh. You ask yourself questions. Language is always there. That is what English must slowly become. Not another subject. Not another lesson. Not another exercise. A working language inside your daily life. This does not mean you must speak English every second. That is not realistic. It means you begin creating small moments where English becomes your natural choice. When you wake up, instead of immediately thinking about grammar, simply ask yourself, what do I need to do today? Then answer. I need to finish my work. I have to call someone. I want to exercise. I'm feeling tired today. Nothing difficult. But something important is happening. Your brain is producing English without waiting for another person. You are teaching it. English belongs here too. Now imagine you are looking for your phone. Instead of thinking silently in your first language, say, "Where did I put my phone?" You find it. Oh, there it is. You are getting ready to leave. I need my keys. I'm already late. I should leave now. These sentences are extremely simple. That is why they are powerful. You already know the words. You do not need to study them. You need to make them automatic. And automatic English is built through ordinary moments. Most learners make a mistake here. They believe speaking practice must always look serious. A notebook, a lesson, a teacher, a speaking partner, a difficult topic, 30 new vocabulary words. But some of the strongest speaking training happens in moments nobody sees. When you describe what you are doing, when you react to something, when you answer your own question, when you think through a small decision in English, when you explain something to yourself. This is where language begins becoming personal. Imagine you are deciding what to eat. You can think, "I don't want this. Maybe I'll eat later. I'm really hungry. This looks better." That is real English. You are not practicing a sentence because a textbook told you to. You are using English because you actually have something to say. And this difference matters. Your brain remembers language better when it is connected to real meaning. If you memorize, "I am hungry," that is useful. But if you genuinely feel hungry and your brain naturally produces, "I'm hungry," the connection becomes stronger. Feeling, meaning, language, all connected. That is how English becomes alive. Now take this further. Throughout your day, create small English zones. Maybe during your morning routine, you use English. Maybe while walking, you think in English. Maybe while watching videos, you respond in English. Maybe before sleeping, you explain your day in English. You do not need hours. You need consistency. 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. A few sentences during lunch, a quick opinion while watching something, a short conversation with yourself before bed. These moments begin adding up, and your brain starts changing its expectation. Before, English meant time to study. Later, English begins to mean time to communicate. That is a huge shift, because people who speak comfortably are not constantly thinking about the language itself. They are thinking about the message. If someone asks, "What did you do today?" a struggling learner thinks, past tense, correct verb, vocabulary, sentence structure. A comfortable speaker thinks, "What did I actually do?" That is where you want to go, from thinking about English to thinking through English. And there is only one way to build that ability. Use English for real thoughts. Start small. You are tired. I need a break. You hear something strange. That doesn't make sense. Something works well. That was easier than I expected. You remember a task. Oh, I almost forgot. You change your mind. Actually, I'll do it later. You make a decision. I think this is the better option. These are not textbook exercises. These are pieces of your real life. The more of your real life you connect to English, the easier speaking becomes. Because when a conversation happens, your brain no longer has to create English from nothing. It has already been using English all day. Now there is another powerful habit. Narrate small parts of your life. Do not describe everything you see like a robot. That becomes boring quickly. Instead, describe what actually matters to you. Maybe you are working on something. Say, "I'm almost finished. This part is difficult. I need another 10 minutes. I think I made a mistake. This looks much better now." Maybe you are cooking. "I need more water. That's too hot. I forgot the salt. This smells good." Maybe you are traveling somewhere. "There's a lot of traffic. I think I'm going the wrong way. I should arrive soon. It's busier than usual." Notice how useful this English is. It is connected to actions you perform repeatedly. Repeated situations create repeated language. Repeated language creates fast retrieval. Fast retrieval creates fluency. This is the chain, and this is why your daily life is one of the best English classrooms you will ever have. It gives you the same situations again and again. You wake up every day, you eat every day, you make choices every day, you solve problems every day, you feel emotions every day, you have opinions every day, you remember things every day. Every one of those moments can strengthen your English. Now let us talk about one habit that can completely change your speaking: the English inner voice. Your inner voice is the small conversation happening inside your mind. What should I do? I don't like this. Maybe tomorrow. I forgot that. Why did I do that? I need to hurry. Much of this happens automatically in your first language. Do not try to replace all of it at once. That would be exhausting. Instead, choose small areas. Maybe decisions. Whenever you make a simple decision, use English. Should I go now? I'll wait 5 minutes. This one is cheaper. I think I'll choose this. Maybe planning. What should I do first? I need to finish this before lunch. After that, I can relax. Maybe reactions. That's funny. That's annoying. That was close. That's a good idea. Over time, English begins appearing without you forcing it. And when that happens, something important has changed. English is no longer only entering from the outside. Your own brain is creating it from the inside. That is exactly what speaking requires. Now let us make this even stronger. Every night, give yourself a 2-minute English review. Do not write. Do not prepare. Speak. Ask. What happened today? Then begin. Today was pretty busy. I worked in the morning. After lunch At first I thought. One good thing was. One problem was. Tomorrow I need to. Do not stop because you forget one word. Explain around it. Do not stop because grammar is imperfect. Keep moving. The goal is continuity. You are training your brain to turn memories directly into spoken English. This is extremely useful because conversations often involve exactly that. Someone asks, "What happened? What did you do? How was your day? What have you been working on?" Your nightly practice prepares you for these natural questions. Now add another habit. Give yourself opinions. Choose something simple. Is waking up early useful? Is social media good or bad? Would I rather live in a big city or a small town? Then speak for 30 seconds. Start. I think, then explain. The main reason is, add an example. For example, add another side, but at the same time, finish. So overall, look what you are doing. You are practicing entire conversation structures without memorizing a speech. You are learning to organize thoughts while speaking. This is much closer to real fluency than simply repeating vocabulary. Now here is something many learners need to hear. You do not need a speaking partner every time you want to improve speaking. A speaking partner is useful. Real conversation is important. But if you wait for another person before opening your mouth, you waste hundreds of opportunities every week. You can train the system alone, then use real conversations to test it. Think of an athlete. They do not only train during the actual match, they practice before the match. Speaking works the same way. Your solo practice prepares the reflex. The real conversation activates it. This also makes real speaking less frightening, because you are not trying everything for the first time. You have already answered hundreds of questions alone. You have already practiced opinions. You have already corrected yourself. You have already searched for missing words. You have already continued after mistakes. So when another person appears, your brain recognizes the situation. It says, "I know how to do this." That is how confidence is built. Not by repeating, "I am confident," but by giving your brain evidence. Evidence that you can begin. Evidence that you can continue. Evidence that you can survive mistakes. Evidence that you can explain yourself. evidence that you can respond. That is real confidence. Now there is another shift you must make. Stop measuring your English only by what you know. Measure what you can use. You may know the word nevertheless. Wonderful. But can you naturally use, I don't agree, I'm not sure, that depends. Can you explain that? What do you mean? Give me a second. I forgot the word. Let me say it another way. These simple phrases are often more valuable in conversation than rare vocabulary, because real speaking is not a vocabulary competition, it is communication. Your English becomes powerful when the words you know are available when you need them. So build depth before endless width. Instead of learning 50 new phrases and using none of them, take 5 useful phrases and use them 50 times. Imagine learning. I'd rather. Use it everywhere. I'd rather stay home. I'd rather go tomorrow. I'd rather drink tea. I'd rather work alone. I'd rather wait. Now the structure becomes automatic. Next week, you do not need to search for it. It appears. That is fluency being built. Take. It depends on the weather. It depends on the price. It depends on the person. It depends on how much time we have. Again, one pattern. Many real thoughts. This is how you make English flexible. Now let us talk about your environment. Your environment can quietly train you every day. Change small things. Set some apps to English. Write your simple to-do list in English. Search simple questions in English. Read short comments in English. Listen to English while doing familiar tasks. But remember, do not only consume. Respond. If you read, "This movie was disappointing," think, "I disagree, I liked it." If you see a question, "What is one habit that changed your life?" answer it aloud. If you hear someone say, "I prefer working at night," react, "Same. I focus better at night." You are turning your environment into conversation fuel. This is what living in English means. English becomes connected to everything: your interests, your work, your entertainment, your plans, your problems, your opinions, your memories, not only English lessons. And this is important because the language you use around things you care about becomes much easier to remember. If you love football, talk about football in English. If you like technology, explain technology in English. If you enjoy cooking, watch cooking content in English and react to it. If you enjoy business, speak about business ideas. Do not force yourself to practice only boring textbook topics. Fluency grows faster when you actually want to say something. Interest creates attention. Attention creates memory. Memory creates faster language. Now imagine you watch a video about something you love. Do not simply finish the video. Afterward, close it and say, "The main idea was, I agree with, I didn't agree with, the most interesting part was, one thing I learned was, what surprised me was." 2 minutes. No notes. No script. Just you and your memory. This exercise is incredibly powerful. Why? Because it trains listening, memory, organization, vocabulary, and speaking at the same time. Most importantly, it forces your brain to turn something you understood into something you can produce. That is exactly the bridge this entire audiobook has been building. Now let us talk about moments when your English feels worse. They will happen. One day, words come easily. Another day, you struggle. One conversation feels amazing. The next feels terrible. Do not panic. Language performance changes with tiredness, stress, the topic, the person, the speed of conversation, your mood. This does not mean you lost your English. Fluency is not a straight line. What matters is that you continue using the system. You freeze, begin again. You translate, return to simple English. You forget a word, explain around it. You make a mistake, correct it and move. You have a bad conversation? Speak again tomorrow. Do not turn one difficult moment into a story about your ability. The only question that matters is, did I keep using English? Because every attempt keeps the road open, and the more often you travel that road, the easier it becomes. Now here is a powerful rule. Never finish your day with English only inside your ears. If you listened to English that day, produce some English too, even 2 minutes. If you watched something, summarize it. If you learned a phrase, use it. If you read something interesting, give your opinion. If nothing happened, talk about your day. Input came in, output must go out. This keeps the system balanced. Remember the original problem. You understood English, but could not reply. Why? Because your input system had years of practice. Your output system did not. Now you are changing that. Every day you give your output system work, and slowly the imbalance disappears. Listening becomes connected to speaking. Thought becomes connected to language. Meaning becomes connected to response. Now imagine someone asks you unexpectedly, "What do you think about this?" Before, panic. Now, "Well, I think," and you continue. They ask, "Why?" The main reason is, you continue. You forget a word. "I don't know the exact word, but it's something that," you continue. They disagree. "I see what you mean, but," you continue. Notice the common word, continue. That may be one of the most important words in speaking. Do not stop. Fluency is not the absence of problems. Fluency is the ability to keep communication moving through the problems. You forget words and continue. You make mistakes and continue. You need time and continue. You change your sentence and continue. That is what strong speakers do, and you can train it. Now create a new rule for mistakes. Instead of thinking, "I made a mistake, my English is bad," think, "I made a mistake and continued." That second part matters more, because the ability to recover creates real speaking strength. Every conversation will contain moments you cannot control. Maybe someone speaks too fast. Ask, "Could you say that again?" Maybe you do not understand one part. Say, "I understood the first part, but what do you mean by?" Maybe you need time. Say, "Give me a second." Maybe you cannot explain your idea. Say, "I'm trying to say that." These are not signs of weak English. These are communication tools. Use them. A speaker who knows how to manage difficulty can have a better conversation than someone who knows more grammar but freezes under pressure. Now start thinking of yourself differently. Do not say, "I'm someone trying to learn English." Say, "I'm someone who uses English and is still improving." That is a very different identity. Learners often wait for some future day when they will finally be ready, but there is no magical day. You become a speaker by speaking before you feel finished. You become comfortable by using English while it is still uncomfortable. You become faster by answering while your answers are still slow. There is no door marked. Fluent people only. You cross into fluency through thousands of small attempts. One conversation, one response, one opinion, one correction, one question, one day at a time. And eventually, you notice something. You are watching something in English, and you react in English without trying. Someone asks you a question, and your first thought appears in English. You make a small mistake, and instead of freezing, you correct it naturally. You forget a word, and explain around it. You tell a story, and realize you did not translate most of it. These moments may seem small. They are not. They are signs that English is becoming part of your operating system. It is becoming available, flexible, fast, alive, and then something even more powerful happens. You stop thinking, "I'm speaking English." You simply think about what you want to say. That is the destination. Not perfect grammar in every sentence, not the biggest vocabulary, not sounding exactly like a native speaker. The destination is freedom. Freedom to answer, freedom to ask, freedom to explain, freedom to joke, freedom to disagree, freedom to tell your story, freedom to be yourself without your language getting trapped halfway between your brain and your mouth. That is why you began. Not to collect English, to use it. So from now on, stop saving your English for practice sessions. Use it when you make decisions. Use it when you watch something. Use it when you remember your day. Use it when you plan tomorrow. Use it when you are curious. Use it when you are annoyed. Use it when you are excited. Use it when nobody is listening. Because the English you use when nobody is listening prepares you for the moment when somebody is. And when that person asks you a question, do not search for perfection. Do not open the grammar book inside your head. Do not wait until every word is ready. Listen, understand, begin. Use what you have. Build the answer while speaking. Repair mistakes. Keep moving. Ask something back. Stay inside the conversation. That is speaking. That is the skill you were missing. And that is how the gap finally disappears. At the beginning, English came into your brain and became trapped. Now it enters, moves through meaning, connects to your thoughts, and comes back out. Fast enough to be useful, simple enough to be natural, strong enough to carry your voice. And once that begins happening consistently, you no longer have to ask, "Why can I understand English but not reply?" Because now you know the answer. Understanding was never the final skill, response was. And response only becomes automatic when you use it again and again in real moments. So stop waiting for the day English finally feels natural. Create that day through repetition. One thought in English, one reaction in English, one answer in English, one conversation in English, again tomorrow, again the next day, until English stops feeling like something you visit. Until you stop translating your life before you can describe it. Until the first sentence comes without fear. Until your thoughts find the road to your mouth. Until English becomes available when you need it. And then, without noticing exactly when it happened, you will realize you are no longer only learning English. You are living part of your life through it. You never lacked English. You only needed to unlock the road between understanding and replying. So stop waiting for perfect words. Speak, react, continue. The more you use English, the less you translate, and one day the reply will come before the fear. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and let English become automatic. If this audiobook helped you, subscribe and keep building the voice already inside you.